Welcome back to another video, guys. In this one, I'm going to go over some of the most important tips to keep you alive in Tarkov. This is aimed primarily at the newer players coming to the game this wipe, but will also serve as a bit of guidance or a refresher for the more experienced players looking to take things to the next level. I'm going to cover 5 main topics which I think are the cause of a lot of people's deaths in game. So stick around to the end because I'm sure you'll pick up something useful from this video. First up, meds. This is something a lot of new players struggle with, and you can see why. You have a bandage for light bleeds, an S-March for heavy bleeds, but only has one use. You have a hemostat for heavy bleeds too, but it has 3 uses. You have a splint, you have an alu splint, you have a car med kit, IFAK, Salawa, Grizzly, CMS kit, survival kit, the list goes on. If you're injured badly, it can be overwhelming to know what to use at the right time, and ultimately it can be a cause of a lot of your deaths in Tarkov. That's why this is my first tip. Understand what your meds are for, what they do, and pick a combination of meds you like. For example, an IFAK, hemostat, and a splint. Put them on the same hotkeys each time, memorize what each one does, because being able to correctly use your meds at the right time can be the difference between life and death. Green stim OP, by the way. Now, here's a pro tip for you. The Grizzly medkit is currently the best item in the game for healing. They stop all types of bleeds and they repair fractures. So if you're like me and fall off things a lot and break your legs, you don't need to worry about carrying one more splint on you. I've just fallen off.
Lewis no longer has legs.
The Grizzly medkit also gives the fastest HP per second in the game. Don't be fooled by that 5-second use time, because you can cancel the animation once the body part you're healing is full HP. You can do this by double clicking left mouse button. Just remember, if you're trying to remove status effects like bleeding or a fracture, you'll need to wait for that full 5 seconds. You can't cancel the animation on this one, otherwise you'll just carry on bleeding or have a fracture still. So, if you have any friends that are fresh into Tarkov this wipe, I absolutely recommend they use a Grizzly as soon as you can get your hands on it. If you've got access to the Flea already, or the Barter, you could be nice and bring one in raid for them. It even fits in the Alpha container, which is great as it will basically have all healing covered, leaving them to concentrate on the more important things, like learning how to play the game, instead of figuring out which of the 500 different types of meds they should be using. Don't get me wrong though. This isn't just a tip for noobs. As soon as I can get a Grizzly, I'm putting it straight in my Gamma. They last such a long time for what the cost is worth. I think it's definitely worth the small investment. Next, let's take a look at how we can better our movement. Movement is arguably one of the most important things in Tarkov, and I'd happily say that it's more important than having good aim. So, how can we use this to our advantage? First, you need to understand why certain people are known for their silky movement and flashy plays. You could just say it comes down to their ability to be an absolute gamer, which in some cases is true.
Just kidding, I will tap your massive forehead as soon as you turn the
But for the most part, it just comes down to experience. The more you play a map following a certain route, naturally the better you'll get at running that route. You start to pick up on minute details, which the majority of players completely miss. And that could be something as simple as an audio cue, letting you know the exact position of a PMC. And you know that because you've heard it before. You've been to dorms 1,000 times. That level of play is what will separate your ability to take down other players from everybody else. So how can we put ourselves on this path to becoming a better player? First, I think you need to pick a route. It doesn't have to be anything methodical. It could just be because you like going that way. But what you need to think about is your pathing. You want to make sure that no matter where you're heading next, you've always got a piece of cover nearby. And if you've got no cover, at least have something that will help break line of sight with the enemy. This will throw off some of their shots and help you get to better cover. Let's check out this clip of me on customs. Okay, so we've heard some shots and I've already got an idea of where they're fighting. Pushing up into the alley, I spot my teammate is on the left hand side. Because we don't have much cover, I stick to the opposite side, so we've got a larger field of view between us, in case anyone tries attacking us from in front. Next, I had a quick look on top of the construction site. Although this might be seen as a risky spot, I think it's fairly safe if you keep yourself moving. Obviously, it's a fantastic bit of high ground, and the main aim here was to see if we could spot anyone from the shots we heard earlier. Seeing nothing, I head over the wall towards dorms. Again, you might think this is fairly risky, but there's a rock or a car to use as cover if anyone starts shooting. I can also use the trees to block line of sight as I either head towards dorms or smugglers behind the hill. Because custom to such a linear map, I tend to play against that and take a more unpredictable route. So, I head towards the hill because I know I can dip behind it and use the bushes for cover. I actually end up spotting the guy that we were looking for initially, and I start making my way towards him. He must have spotted me too, but thankfully I managed to react a bit quicker than he did. Notice here how even though I've got the kill, I'm just sticking around in the trench. I'm using what cover I have around me to protect myself. Even here as I approach the body, I make sure to stick around the bushes, just so I'm blocking some line of sight. You never want to get absolutely caught out in the open with nothing to do, like that guy was. I proceed to clear the surrounding area before I loot the body. Thank you to everybody still watching. If you're enjoying the video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd let me know what you think about it in the comments. And if you found that last section about pathing particularly helpful, do be sure to subscribe, because I'm going to be doing more in-depth videos about pathing in my survival series. So make sure you check out my channel because there might already be one of them live now. Okay, tip number 3. This is all about sound. Let's just listen to this clip. As you might have heard, the guy decided to stand up from prone whilst he was right next to us, revealing himself instantly. That's a big yikes. He would have heard us walking over for quite some time. He could have even got the drop on us if he wanted, but he chose to sit still, hoping we'd pass. Whilst I give you a few tips about sound, I'm also going to push you towards this idea of playing with confidence and trusting what you hear, because like movement, sound is equally one of the most important things in Tarkov. When coupled together correctly, you can seek out your enemy by baiting them to make a sound. If you're close quarters, you don't necessarily need to concentrate on scanning every corner either. If you watch any of my videos, you'll see that when I'm pushing into a building, I'm rarely slow walking. This is because it makes you an easy target. Yeah, you could slow everything down and play super tactically. That might work for you, but in my experience, I've had way more success playing with a slight bit of ignorance, or confidence. By pushing aggressively, I'm giving the illusion that I'm not ready for a fight. But in reality, I'm half expecting someone to be sitting in a room. I'm simply running around trying to bait out movement so I can get an easy kill. Let me give you an example. This is 3rd story dorms. If you're half sane, you'll enter somewhere on the side of the building. Let's just take this ground floor entrance for example. Now, I could open the door and peek like this. Sure, my guard is up, but I'm super slow. It's really obvious what I'm doing. Try this instead. Just sprint past. Every time you pass, just free cam to the side and see if anyone shoots back. That way you don't have to look into the shadows for an enemy. This makes you incredibly hard to hit, and can give you valuable information to get a nice pre-fire. Alright, let's go in. Same principle again. Sprint past the doorway and see if anyone shoots back. You can go on and do this against any angle that you're trying to peek really. I'd say it's probably one of the safest methods of scanning a building to bait out an enemy. Being able to move fluidly like this does take some practice though. Luckily for you, there's plenty of buildings in Tarkov you can try this out on. But if you can get to a point where clearing buildings becomes second nature, and I'd say you're well on your way to joining the Shattered Mask nerds. Speeding things up slightly now. Okay, slight disclaimer here. I'm not telling you to just run around the map with your W key firmly pressed down, because that would be irresponsible. The reason I'm talking about this so much is because sprinting is something which new players are inherently scared of. The first few raids you play are often traumatizing. You hear a Chad sprinting on the other side of the map, but it feels like he's right next to you. I understand. That's why I'm telling you to use your W key in moderation. Often, if you're walking at a regular speed, and someone who's sprinting approaches you, it'll be very difficult for them to hear you, and you can quite easily get the drop on them. In summary, I'm not trying to change your playstyle. These tips are here to guide you, or remind you that you should be consciously thinking about where and when to sprint, because eagerly running to shots willy-nilly will most likely lead to your death. Whatever you do though, just don't end up like this guy. Oh, he's right here. He's clueless. Alright, back to it. Let's carry on this conversation about confidence. Something I learned early on in Tarkov is that I absolutely hated it when I died, and so it made me play more defensive. I slowed down, and sometimes it worked, but what frustrated me more than just dying is knowing I could have done something more to fight against that death. Time and time again, I spent too long listening to footsteps, or thinking about what or when would be the best opportunity to strike, that I actually straight up died because I was too slow, or I missed my chance entirely and they just ran away. That process was tough because it felt like I was being the more tactical player, in a game which is seemingly very tactical. But what I was missing was the raw experience of fighting another PMC. By constantly trying to get the drop on people, I wasn't actually learning how to fight, because most of them were over before they even started. What I'm about to say might come across as counterintuitive, because the whole point of this video is about learning how we can survive more. With that being said, the best way to survive more is to die more. Well, not entirely. What I'm saying is, Tarkov isn't your average run-of-the-mill shooter. It's extremely intricate. It requires a lot of experience to even be considered as a good player. So, how do we accelerate this learning process? Well, it's simple really. You need to throw yourself in the deep end. You need to put yourself in a bad situation if you're going to learn how to get out of them. What I mean by that is, look for fights with a PMC. Try pushing him. See what happens. Yeah, you're probably going to die, but for every death, if you can take away something positive from it, for example, what you did wrong or what you could have done instead, then you're going to learn so much more about Tarkov and yourself as a player. This game is tough, and a lot of people quit before they even give it a real chance, so believe in yourself and go chase down that Chad you saw killing noobs on customs. Well, they were a fucking 4-man. Alright, let's wrap this up by talking about grenades. I'm going to keep this one to the point because I've been blabbing for a while now. Buy grenades! It should be common sense that a weapon which allows you to kill people whilst you're in no direct line of sight of the enemy is overpowered. I see far too many people well into level 30 or 40 not running grenades because they're too expensive or something. Buy grenades! Learn how to throw them. Bring in as many as you feel you can afford. One grenade is better than no grenades. It doesn't matter if you get a kill or not, because every time you throw a grenade, you level up your strength skill slightly. It's so worth the investment. If you're struggling to throw grenades accurately, a quick and easy tip to line them up is to aim down sight before you throw it, because grenades basically land center of mass anyway. There's almost no inaccuracy to them unless you're sprinting or jumping. Grenades are one of the most valuable things to have on you in a fight. They can be used in so many different ways, but that's a video for another day. Guys, I really hope you found this video useful. If you have any other tips you'd like to share, drop them in the comments. I'll reply to each and every one of you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.